Manhattan Bank has been serving the Gallatin Valley since 1905. Started by local farmers in order to help grow the agriculture industry, Manhattan Bank has since grown into a full-service bank serving the entire valley. With branches in Manhattan, Churchill, Three Forks, and Bozeman, you're never far from your local bank.
As banks are consolidating and changing, Manhattan Bank sets themselves apart through consistency and a small-town banking feel. Come see why we have been in the Valley for well over 100 years. Stop by the new building in Bozeman, see Justin Skillman and Tyler Dosher for your business banking, and Brad Whitmer for your home loans. Go Cats.
Member FDIC.
Welcome, everybody, to the R&R Catcast, a fan-based podcast focusing on Montana State athletics. We're two dudes named Ryan from the state of Washington talking about our dear Montana State. We hope you enjoy. All right, welcome back, Bobcat fans. Thanks for joining us on another episode of the R&R. This is our instant reaction show, the R&R After Dark, as we like to call them. We were coming off the butt whooping in Brookings that happened in the semifinals. Montana State falls 39-18 in a blowout loss to end their season. We're here to recap the game. We typically do this on a Monday night, but Ryan and I thought we'd get on the mics tonight and course through the game, maybe do a little bit of commiserating and banter back and forth. And coming up in the later part of the week, maybe we'll do like a postseason recap. But we're here tonight to talk about the game that just happened this afternoon. Looked like a really cold game. We'll get into that. Thorny, how you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. You know why? Because I think the silver lining in a game like this where you get just smoked early and you know the game's basically over at a certain point, halftime, early third quarter, whenever you personally as a fan decided this game isn't happening. I feel like those kinds of games at least allow you to go through like all the stages of grief all the way through acceptance before the final whistle even blows. So that's where I'm at. I've accepted it. I'm not thrilled about it, but I'm doing all right, man. It's a Saturday night. I got a drink, and we're here to talk one last time about Bobcat football. At least a game recap. This is going to be kind of a weird episode. We can't decide if we want to do like an instant reaction or a full game recap, so I think it's going to be kind of just smashed together, and we're just going to see where it goes. Whatever. I don't think we want to talk about this twice.
I'm okay with the loss. I'm not okay with getting blown out again. This seems to be a common thread across not just football, but ending games for Montana State athletics. You go back to the national championship game, we get blown out. Heck, you go to the basketball game, the NCAA tournament, we get blown out. I just, if we're going to lose, that's one thing, but not being competitive in these big games is a trend that, I hate. I really do, because it leaves a bad taste in my mouth. It makes me feel like we're far away from accomplishing the goals we really want to get to.
Yeah, I mean, just to rephrase what you said a little bit, obviously we're competitive in these games because we're winning these games. But when we lose, it is an epic manner that we lose. I mean, we haven't lost a playoff game by less than like 20 points. And I mean, if you go all the way back, like to the last time the Bobcats were in the playoffs, 2006 is kind of when it started. From 84 to 2006, no playoffs. 2006, we lost to App State by like 17 or 20 points, somewhere in that range. I think the only one that we've lost that's relatively close was a South Dakota State game in 2014, the Prucott Blizzard. But that's only because we scored late in that game and then went for an onside kick, and it ended up looking more respectable than it actually was. But yeah, every single time we played North Dakota State, last few years, South Dakota State, the men's team in the tournament, the women's team in the tournament, we're getting to these new heights, but when we lose, we just get whooped. And that I'm tired of seeing the Bobcats play a football game, a meaningful football game, and then the other team is subbing in their ones, or their 2s and 3s in the fourth quarter, early in the fourth quarter, because the game's already over.
Yeah, that one stings. It does. And that has me kind of in a bad mood tonight. That's how I'm feeling. I know you said you're more zen-like but
Yes.
I'm not there yet. I'm
Well,
not there.
I'm going to try and be the voice of happiness, or at least reason here, because I imagine you're going to be pretty low. I'm going to try and keep it even keel. That's my goal
All
here.
right.
Well, where do we want to start? Do we want to talk about what we're drinking, or are we drinking, or we just want to start talking some football?
I just have water with me right now.
Just got water. All right, well, that's fine. So let's press on, because this, like I said, this is help me out here, a mashup. I'll go with that word, of different kinds of episode types. So let's just get into the stats, I guess. 39-18 in Brookings. The Bobcats lose. Their season ends at South Dakota State. The Jackrabbits end up with 22 first downs. The Bobcats just 18. The Cats were only 3 of 12 on third down. And South Dakota State was 5 of 9. I believe they started like 4 of 4. So I think at least at some point that started turning around better for the Cats. Cats were 2 of 4 on fourth down. The Rabbits were 1 of 1. South Dakota State compiled 473 yards of total offense, 192 through the air, and 281 on the ground on 38 attempts for 7.4 yards per carry. The Bobcat defense was just not up to the task today. The Cats only compiled 281 yards of offense, most of that through the air, 229 yards through the air, only 52 yards on 34 carries for 1.5 yards per carry. Absolutely atrocious. This is probably the focal point of the conversation, because that's just terrible. That's unacceptable for this team, for how well they ran the ball this year, for that to be the final stat. No turnovers in this game. Pretty even time of possession, 31 minutes on the dot for South Dakota State and 29 minutes on the dot for the Bobcats.
You know, you look at those stats until you get down into the rushing stats, things look okay. Man, when's seeing 52 yards for rushing? Unreal. Just
makes
terrible.
you mad, right? Like, I just see that, I'm like, ugh. And I mean, I think part of that
was Zen, Mike, are you feeling right now?
I mean, yeah, I'm going to get riled up about stuff. Don't get me wrong, but I've accepted everything that's already happened, and I'm not like fuming about, like, I don't know. But I think a lot of this is, I mean, certainly part of it would be Sean Chambers getting injured, because he was going to be the up the middle guy, and that didn't help. And it just seemed like when he went down, I think you texted me this, we didn't really seem to have a backup plan for that.
Shades of the national championship game. It almost felt like we lost a lot in Frisco last year. The mojo we had was just instantly gone.
Yep.
We didn't have an answer for that, man. And it's weird, because I was like, all right, Chambers out. We've seen this before. We played half of our season with one quarterback, albeit Malott or Chambers. And like you were talking to me, we went pretty vanilla on our play calling. We had to turn to the pass game, which was, was something we'll probably chat about here and there. But as far as the running game goes, the thing we've hung our hat on. Now, the South Dakota State, those Jackrabbits are number one rush defense in the nation. And I mean, it was full display. But we were the number one rush offense in the nation. I thought there would be, a tussle back and forth. I can't recall one play where we scampered over 10 yards. Maybe Malott once.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
He had a 10-yard long. He ended up with 17 carries for 3 yards. So if he gained 10 yards on one of them, that means he had 16 carries for negative yards, -7 yards on the rest of them. I mean, some of those were like sacks and stuff where he started to scramble. I don't know how you compile that as a stat keeper, but and he certainly couldn't get his footing in the way that he would normally want to. But it didn't matter. There was Jackrabbits everywhere you turned, putting pressure on everybody, and they are a big, strong defensive line, and they were very disciplined. I think they're definitely the most disciplined defense I think we've played all year. They didn't bite on anything, but we also didn't try a lot of things. It didn't seem. We weren't doing any of our pre-snap motion or smoke and mirrors that we're so famous for. We weren't bringing, like Marquis Johnson and Taco Dowler across and doing RPO based or, a read option based on that kind of stuff. It seemed we were just very much more vanilla and straight up, and we came out passing. which in hindsight was good because that's literally the only thing we could do all day was pass the ball relatively well. Like that was a silver lining. I thought Malott looked pretty good throwing the ball around, and Cleveland Thomas had himself a day. We didn't really get into personal stats, but 4 catches for 74 yards with a long of 33. He had a good game. He was catching everything, and I'm proud of him from coming from basically in fall camp. He looked like bundled up, like he was cold already when it was like 75 degrees, 80 degrees. Do you remember that? Like first seeing Cleveland Thomas, he was wearing like that full face thing. And then he comes out in Brookings, South Dakota, like 9 degrees, wearing like no sleeves. So quite the transition for Cleveland Thomas. And he had a great game. But the passing game was working, but not working well enough. And it wasn't easing up the running game. I just figured, okay, we're passing to set up the run. If we were, it didn't work.
We couldn't get off blocks. I mean, I guess that's saying that the wrong way. I'm thinking of the offense. We couldn't shed those defenders. We couldn't get to the next level. And maybe it was something, part of it too, was maybe just the footing. I know Derek Snell said in the post game, he's like, no, that wasn't a big deal. I kind of think it was because we weren't able to hit the cutbacks like we normally do.
I mean, I think it did alter what we could do. But, I mean, if you can't adapt your offense because you can't cut back the way you want to do, then you're not a national championship caliber offense to begin with.
Yeah.
And it did affect things. Like, we could not do what we wanted to do, but maybe that's why we came out passing, because we knew we weren't able to cut. I don't know. It's because Taylor Housewright got stuck in an elevator and they had to delay kickoff, which is just pretty comical, but I guess you could call that a bad omen. A bad omen. Taylor Housewright, our offensive coordinator, stuck in an elevator. They couldn't get him out right before kickoff. Like, yeah, that just kind of set the tone in a weird way.
Just so Thorny, like, just straight up answer it. Why could we not run the ball?
I don't have a single answer. I think it's a combination of the elements took us out of what we wanted to do. I thought the game plan on offense was interesting. I thought Sean Chambers getting injured didn't help. And honestly, a huge credit goes to South Dakota State's defense. They were big, they were physical, they popped us in the mouth, and they were disciplined, and they, took it to the offensive line, and they were in the backfield all the time and in the right spot, which is crucial.
Yeah, I hadn't seen a team take it to us like that this year. And here we are. So ends our season, which sucks. But, we get a chance at these guys again coming up next year. We'll have to play some revenge on that. It does suck, Thorny, that it was an element, like the weather probably did have a factor to play in this. And I didn't think it was going to be a factor. I thought it would be something Montana State would, be all right with. South Dakota State's the team that has the indoor practice facility, not Montana State. I guess when you just can't get traction like you normally want to, when we have a team built on outside zone and not necessarily A-gap power, maybe a show today.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm never going to blame that on the reason we lost, but I think it did affect.
I think it's part of it.
I think it affected our game plan.
Yeah,
I don't know. It also seemed like we didn't really try any of the stuff that's basically got us to here in a lot of ways. I'm gonna have to rewatch the game. This is the instant reaction show. I watched the game through once, but it just seems like we weren't running the stuff that we normally do. I mean, what did Elijah Elliott got? 2 carries? I don't know. Marquis Johnson didn't get any carries. Taco Dowler didn't get any carries. It was Afonso, Chambers, Malott, and Elliott got 2 carries. That was it. That was the entirety of the rushing attack. I also thought, I asked you, our season average was 49 carries a game. I remember texting you, how many carries do we need to get in this game? I think we both landed somewhere in the mid-40s would be somewhere we could work with. 34 carries. South Dakota State did a great job of having long, sustained drives and keeping the ball out of our hands. Even though the time possession's not all that different We just didn't get that many opportunities. We also threw the ball 26 times. So we threw it 8 less times than we rushed the ball. How many games has that happened where it's been that close this year? Like none. NAU,
When Sean
maybe?
Chambers was their quarterback. Yeah.
Yeah, UC Davis, maybe?
You texted me earlier on during the game. You said we're back to Tommy Ball. What do you mean by that?
Just snapping into Tommy Mellott and saying, go do things. Make something happen, Tommy. And also, Tommy Mellott Ball also includes Tommy not giving the ball up very much. He becomes like, he tries to be a hero and tries to take the game over and keeps it like all the time. So Tommy Ball is not a compliment. I think it's kind of a thing that we've reverted to. And he did really good this season, like not getting into that mode all the time. But, I don't know if it was him or Housewright, but yeah, Tommy Ball, it just seemed like we just went back to that. And, South Dakota State was more than ready for that. Like Tommy Mellott looked like compared to the size of the defensive line, he just looked like a little guy out there. And he's never a big guy. He's not a big guy, but he just looked like he was trying to run around mountains. It was South Dakota's defensive line is wide, and they have very big lower bodies. They just look like tree trunk, big dudes out there. Nothing we see in the Big Sky.
Somebody said they played a lot of guys. I don't think I really noticed that, but it could be true as well.
I don't think that matters.
I was a little bit. Yeah, I think it does. You don't think rotating guys in matters?
But we're not an offense that's predicated on wearing defenses down. We're an offense predicated on getting guys looking the wrong way and making mistakes. And we did none of the things to make their eyes wander and wonder where we're going. They just stayed in their spot. I don't think it mattered that they rotated fresh guys in, honestly.
Yeah, I can see your point there. Especially when, as you said, we start playing Tommy Ball. It was just, I started yelling at the TV screen when we were just doing the RPO and Tommy's pulling it and running into two linebackers just sitting there waiting for him. Not even two linebackers, two defensive linemen just waiting for him right there. Like, we're not even pressing the edges. We didn't even try. So,
I bet Tommy
I did.
Go ahead.
I was going to talk about his passing a little bit. So, do you have a thought on that before transition?
I do. Yeah. Before you transition, I want to say, I bet Tommy Mellott made more incorrect decisions in this game than he did probably the entire season combined. It seemed like he didn't know.
Bold statement.
I didn't know. It just seemed like he didn't know what to do, and every decision he made was wrong. Like he would keep it, and there'd be 3 guys right there, and he'd hand it off, and then there was 3 guys waiting for whoever got the ball. I mean, our running backs got 9 carries in this game. Clearly, we were not giving up the ball very much from the quarterback spot.
I kind of wonder what our game plan was with Chambers and Mellott because it looked dynamic first scripted series when we went down and scored.
I can almost guarantee there was going to be Chambers throwing the ball at some point.
Yeah.
And we didn't get there.
No doubt, right?
We didn't get there, which is a bummer.
So we had to then transition into the passing game, which is not our forte. And that is, I think, I have to believe that's Tommy Mellott's next step is being a quarterback who can make reads, who can make progressions from receiver to receiver. They were talking about sometimes maybe Mellott just, looks at one half of the field. Maybe he needs to look at the whole field. There was a couple passes today that I hadn't seen all year long. Ravi Alston over the middle a couple times. Cleavon Thomas had a couple catches that were very impressive. Willie P had a couple of nice catches. I just, but he's just staring them down. He's got the zip, no doubt. But I think for Tommy next year, going into his junior year, his next step is to become that complete quarterback where he's almost as dangerous with his arm as he is with his feet.
I thought he actually took a decent step towards that today. I mean, that's a good defense. They're a good rushing defense, but they're overall a good defense. And the way he sat in the pocket and delivered some absolute dimes while getting crushed, too. He threw some absolute incredible footballs in this game. So he made an improvement, but he's also still, like you said, his arm talent, I think, is there. His mechanics are there, I think. And now he, like you said, he just needs to be able to read the defense a little bit better and find the open guy. Because there's pretty much an open guy with the style of offense we run. There's almost always an open receiver or a tight end. Because teams are so focused on the run. And Housewright's creative enough as a play caller to get these guys open. Lott's getting better at finding them, but yeah, that's his biggest step in the offseason. He should spend the entirety of spring ball. We should be running passing plays the entire spring ball. We know what he can do with the football, running it. We know what he can do. Like, now let's get his passing up to snuff. Because if you ask me, what does this offense need to be able to beat North Dakota State or South Dakota State? I mean, I think it's clear at this point we need to be able to throw the ball a little bit better.
Bingo. Yep. Don't let him run in the spring. Make him pass every time he's touching the ball.
Work on it. Work on that passing game.
Trayton Pickering had one go right through his hands. That was a touchdown.
Yeah, that was tough. We haven't had many dropped balls even in the bad weather games we played all year. But that one was painful. That was a touchdown. That wasn't even that hard of one either. It was a good pass. It wasn't super hard. It was right in his hands, not super high. That should have been a touchdown. That was painful.
I think the first one Cleveland Thomas made, he was like bouncing around like a ping pong ball, and some guy hit him from the back and then sandwiched him from the front. And I was like, holy cow, he held on to that. That was quite the hit. I was really impressed with Thomas today. You know what else I was impressed with? If we're going to talk about some positives, our return game. Kickoff returns, punt returns. That was solid all game. I think that was the one place where we outplayed South Dakota State.
Yeah, a 66-yard return by Derek Snell, who's like, when he gets the ball back there, you're like, all right, what can you do? Like, most teams, like, if you're big guy catching the ball back there that's supposed to be blocking, you don't want him running the ball. Like, no, just take a knee, fair catch it. But no, Derek Snell, you're like, all right, run. But yeah, Marquis Johnson had a couple nice returns. Derek Snell had one, and Taco Deller, the one punt he did field, he got 27 yards on. I thought the special teams played pretty well. I mean, Glessner missed an extra point, which was not ideal, but in the grand scheme of things, that's so far down on the problems from this game.
He didn't even have a shot. He couldn't even, take a swing at it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I forgot. I thought he missed it, but yeah, it was a hold. That's right. I'm remembering now. So yeah, that wasn't even Glessner's fault at all.
All right. Anything else about the offense?
I mean, no, there's really not much to talk about. They got shut down. They didn't play well. The game plan didn't seem that solid, or at least it wasn't. Like when Chambers went out, we had no backup plan. I don't know. South Dakota State gets a lot of credit in my book for just dominating the Bobcats in a way that hasn't happened since the national championship game last year. Like, not even Oregon State was able to dominate the Bobcat offense like South Dakota State did. And Oregon State just whooped up Florida in their bowl game.
Yeah, man, I still got to think the footing had a lot to do with it. I know you're not going to say that, but, and here's why I say that. When I watched South Dakota State run the ball, they were taking those baby steps, setting up their blocks. They weren't they weren't hitting the hole like you would if you had full footing. But they had huge dudes that outmatched our size, and that's why they had these extended runs where they could just scamper 44 yards for a touchdown. Makes it look easy when that happens.
I'm not saying it wasn't a factor. I'm just saying if you can't overcome that, you're not a national championship caliber team. That's all I'm saying.
All right.
You gotta be able to win in all conditions, man.
Yeah.
And I put this on the Bobcat Nation, like, what kind of football is required in Bozeman, basically? Like, if you're going to be a team that expects to have home games in December, you're going to have to play in crappy weather, period. We practice in crappy weather. Period. So how do we not know how to play in crappy weather on the road?
Yeah, I'm a little bit stymied right now. Let's talk about the defense.
Oh, the joke. Somebody texted me. The joke was like, was Willie Mack Garza stuck on an elevator too? Because the defense got eaten up. This was very reminiscent of North Dakota State. Like, it's clear that our defense is not up to the physical level that South Dakota State and North Dakota State are at. When they come out there with their big tight ends and their 5 huge offensive linemen and their big running back, and they have I think they had a fullback in at some points, we just had no answer, period. We just got popped. We got pushed off the ball. We were in the wrong spots, even on our pass defense. We got just manhandled. Straight up manhandled.
Yep.
No other way around it.
I kept thinking we might bring another guy up to the line of scrimmage, start blitzing, start doing something different. Didn't seem like we were interested in that today.
I don't know. I didn't pay enough attention to exactly what we were doing. But it doesn't really matter when you're getting blown off the ball. They had these weird plays where they were so patient and slow developing. Like, they'd hand the ball off to Isaiah Davis. He'd go on the left side, and he'd just be slowly kind of jogging behind his offensive line, this wall. And it'd be a 6-yard carry because he's just patiently running behind and nobody's getting to him until the whole thing collapses. It was just a physical domination. That's all it was. I don't know if it even mattered what scheme we would have ran if we brought up guys to help when you're getting that blown off the ball, when you can't get off a single block anywhere. What are you going to do?
Stuff. It exposed us. I mean, the defense was our defense all year long. As of late, a lot of people were saying we've made some strides, and I was kind of letting myself believe that we had. They hung. How many rushing yards against us, Thorny? What'd you say early on?
I see 281.
Jeez.
Isaiah Davis averaged 9.9 yards per carry. Amar Johnson averaged 6.9 yards per carry. And even Mark Gronowski, their quarterback, every time he got hit, he'd fall forward 3 or 4 yards. Every single one of their guys, initial contact was either a missed tackle, a broken tackle, or the guy just hung onto his ankles and got drugged 3 yards. That was enough to tell me that we're physically getting smoked right now. When Mark Gronowski ran off to the left side, got spun around, was backpedaling into the defense, and Sebastian Valdez hits him with squares up on him with Gronowski's back to him, and still Gronowski spins and falls forward 3 more yards. How does that happen? It was unbelievable to watch. We just got pushed around.
We were going high at these guys too. Did you notice that? When our tackling angles, our pad level.
It's been like that all year.
Kind of high, didn't it?
That's all we want to do. It's all the Cats defense has done all year is try to just crush people and not have great tackling technique.
Yeah.
It's been a problem all year.
That's something that's taught. Yeah, that's a teaching flaw right there. That's not being taught. Well, where do we go from there? What do you think needs to change? Is it scheme? Is it personnel? Is it both? Is it coaching?
I think this is something I want to talk a lot more in depth when we do a season recap / what needs to happen episode that we're going to do. I mean, but the gut right here is you need to get better on both lines, period. You get bigger, stronger, more physical on the defensive line and offensive line. And you need to, I don't know, you need to get stronger. I mean, we've felt that every time I put North Dakota State, and I feel like every year we've gotten better. But I also believe this team made it farther or was better than I was ever expecting it to be at the beginning of the year. We lost so much talent from last year's team. The defensive line and offensive line sizes were a concern going into the season, and it wasn't. They turned it into a positive. Both teams did, both sides of the ball. But here we are getting exposed, like you said. And I think it's what needs to happen is we need to get bigger on the defensive line and deeper on the defensive line and offensive line. I mean, it's clear the best teams in the FCS, more so than any other subdivision of football, have the best lines, period.
Yeah. There's nothing else to say on that. I think you and I need to go back, rewatch this game again, maybe on Monday or something, or maybe tomorrow. Right. And then when we do our season recap, maybe jot down some notes. I was coming in here tonight. Like I said, it's pretty raw for me. I just wrote a couple ideas down to talk about, but I don't have any of my normal prep that we have going into these things.
I have no notes at all. I have nothing. I have ESPN stat sheet up in front of me. Literally, we just turned the mic on and started talking. Therapy. I'm not sure I feel any better, to be honest with you. But
I'll give you just a little take on the defense. I think, yes, one, we need to get bigger and nastier on the line. And I think we're starting. I mean, we got two young guys, Valdez and Blake Schmidt. Those guys are going to continue to put on some beef. I think our defensive ends need to be more nasty, just straight up more nasty. I don't know where Brody Greeby fits in on the end. If he can become this awesome end player, I'm not sold on that. He's huge. That guy is ginormous. He seems like almost more like an interior guy to me anymore. I'm not sure, but
he seems almost size-wise comparable to Amandre Williams at this point. Like he could do some of the stuff we used Amandre Williams for, it seems.
Yeah. And with Kenneth Iden progressing and some guys behind him, I'd be happy to see that. But like Ben Seymour, he's not the biggest of a dude. When you're trying to set the edge on that side, maybe looking size right there. We're going to need some faster linebackers. We're going to need bigger linebackers, stronger linebackers. Losing Cowell is going to be huge. Danny Yu's a good guy. Makeda Riley, his younger brother, he's going to be good. But I think we just need more speed in general on the defensive side. Safety play. I don't know, man. Maybe now that I'm thinking about it, maybe it's more of a communication thing. Maybe it's more of a coaching thing.
I think,
yes,
we have to get bigger, but yeah, I agree that there's a lot more issues on this team than talent and size. Coaching, communication, I don't know. I'm not an expert to be able to judge it, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a change on the defense in the offseason in some way. AKA, I don't know if Willie Mack's going to be back or not. Partnered with his little run-in with the law, with the performance of the defense. They got better throughout, like we said, later half of the season, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's not back, but it's pure speculation on my part. But something's got to change on the defense. You can have
we're a completely average defense.
You can have relatively average talent and still be a pretty decent defense.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen it, like coaching, having guys play above their level, their talent level, or above their heads. Like I didn't feel like anybody on the team this year played above their ceiling. I mean, think about it like that. Like who on this team was better than you expected, or was like, man, he had a great season. I mean, maybe Callahan O'Reilly. I think everyone knew exactly what Valdez was going to be. He was a dude. But other than that, like who? I think if anybody, some of the guys that came back didn't seem to play as well. And I don't know if I blame them or if I blame coaching or the scheme, or maybe we've talked about this. Maybe the whole entire problem is Troy Anderson covered up a lot of problems. I don't know. But nobody played out of their minds above their like talent or physical skill set. And I have to think that a lot of that is coaching.
Yeah, and we always getting fed the line. We got to be fast. We got to be physical. How about just the fundamentals of tackling?
You got to tackle and be in the right spot. You're gonna be an okay defense if you can tackle and be in the right spot.
Yep.
Period.
All right.
You can be not the fastest team, You can be not the biggest team but if you can tackle and you know where you're supposed to be, you won't be terrible.
Well, the Bobcats finished 12-2. I mean, it's always a good day to be a Bobcat. I got Coach Vegan. Coach Vegan, I got a lot of trust in. I think he's going to probably make some good decisions for us going forward. It's tough right now because I remember you and I distinctly talking last year, just like, man, I just want to get back to Frisco now. That's all I want. And to be this close. And so many people were so confident going into this game. I was sitting reading Bobcat Nation all week long. I was like, man, I don't know, man. A lot of people are walking around with their chest puffed up, but I don't know if I feel that way. And that was confirmed today. I felt positive. I did. I liked the way we were trending. I did not think we were going to get blown out. In fact, I think I was going to contact you. I contacted one person and I said, there's three ways this game can go. We're going to win close, lose close, or win big.
That's me.
I did not see this one coming. Yeah. And I don't know why, because I clearly had forgotten all the history we have on these final games.
Yes. We should know by now. And we talked about this. If the Cats are going to lose, it's not going to be by one score. That's just not how we roll.
It's so frustrating, man. We've gotten
so much better at winning games that we didn't used to win at all, but we still can't lose competitively, and it drives me bonkers.
Nope.
Like if we lose this game 39-33 or 39-30, you're feeling different.
Oh yeah.
And maybe South Dakota State scores. Maybe it's 32-30 with 5 minutes left, and South Dakota State scores in 39-30, and that's the game. It's a whole different feeling. Then South Dakota State's got their backup quarterback in with 7 minutes left in the game. So, in the semifinal game, we can't make it competitive enough to keep their starters in all game. Painful. But, go ahead.
Do you have a rooting interest going forward? National championship game?
I don't know. Like the easy pick is South Dakota State. They did some stuff today that I wasn't real thrilled about. From a, I want to say they're dirty, but their game plan was definitely just to crush Tommy Lott and Sean Chambers as much as they could. There was a pitch play. Tommy Lott got leveled on it. He pitched it, and the guy took another at least 1.5, almost 2 steps, and just nailed Tommy Lott. Took a shot on him. I think it was the first big completion to Cleveland Thomas. Lott got popped. And I was like, how is that not roughing the passer? Like they only showed a brief replay of it, but he got crushed, high. He got hit high and hard. Like South Dakota State was clearly just trying to beat us up. And there's nothing wrong with that necessarily, but it just rubbed me the wrong way a little bit how they're going after our quarterback so hard. But we're a running quarterback team, so it's not like it's like Tom Brady back there. It's like guys who are used to being physical and running the ball. But that made me a little bit less of a fan, but I think overall I'm probably still going to go for the Jackrabbits.
Yeah, and probably will too.
If the Jackrabbits do win, I believe every single year since 2018, the Bobcats have lost in the playoffs. It will have been to the national champion because obviously we've lost to North Dakota State every year. So South Dakota State wins it. That trend will continue that the Bobcats lose to the eventual champion every year.
I think the Jacks lose a lot of big talent next year, don't they? The Yankee twins, Tucker Kraft, Isaiah Davis. I don't know. Maybe Davis is a junior. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure.
Is he a senior?
I don't know.
Yeah.
ESPN says he's a junior, but I don't know how much I trust ESPN talking about FCS class of players, but
all right, man.
Isaiah Davis was a man today.
Yeah, it was.
And it was painful because there was a thread about which Isaiah is better, just kind of a fan discussion. And Afonso didn't really show up too much today. He didn't have much of a chance, though. The offensive line didn't do much blocking for anybody, but I don't know. Isaiah Davis did show up. I know that much. He ran us over. He ran over us. He ran around us. He ran through us. 158 yards on 16 attempts. That touchdown long, 41 yards, which I was hoping that he somehow dropped the ball before he crossed the end zone. Would have been hilarious.
That was so weird.
We would have just lost 32 to 18 instead.
Game was lost in the trenches.
Absolutely.
It wasn't Isaiah Davis. He was just the guy carrying the ball. That offensive line just dominated our defensive line. That's what I saw.
Yeah, maybe Isaiah Fonte runs for 158 yards if he's a running back for South Dakota State. Yes, today.
Easy. Ryan Foley could do it.
Kid Ryan Foley run a 41-yard touchdown. I could average 1.2 yards per carry, which I think is about what the Bobcats average today. But I want to, if we're done talking about this game, are we done talking about this game?
I think so.
I want to end on a positive note, man. It was a great year. I don't want to be a sour, sad Gus this entire episode. Cats went 12-2. Like I said, at some point on this episode, they were better than I thought we were going to be. I think I penciled us in at 9-2 when we went through our preseason thing, which would have been, I think I might have had us tied for the conference because I thought Sac State was going to lose a game or two. But I just didn't think, like, when we started, that this team was going to be the team that's going to make another deep playoff run to the semifinals, potential national championship. I just don't think I had that high of expectations for it. And they played really well, and it was a pretty dominant year. It was exciting watching the Bobcats play football this year, and it was a great year. We had a lot of great moments, and that's where I'm at peace. Is like, I'm happy with this year in general. If you look back on it, I think you consider this year a success.
Undoubtedly. Spot on, man. It's good to see the Bobcats get better throughout the year as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing I really appreciate about Coach Fegan and his teams in the past 2 years have peaked late in the season, in the playoffs. Seems like Coach Vegan has a good vision for crafting that momentum for the playoffs. He understands what it takes. And I feel for Coach. I feel for those seniors.
Yeah.
Tough day. But, it's a good day to be a Bobcat as well. It's always a good day to be a Bobcat.
Always a good day to be a Bobcat. So let's not lose sight of the great season that was. Disappointing end, but in reality, I mean, it's a disappointing end for all but one team, basically, right? One team wins a national championship. Bobcats basically took third or fourth, whichever you want to call it, out of 120 some odd teams. That ain't bad.
No, sir.
All right. Well, maybe we'll talk more about this next time. I don't know. We'll probably have more to say next time we record. But there it is. There is our quick take on the sad ending to the season in Brookings. But positive thoughts here. The future's bright. We returned so many talented players, and I have faith that Vegan will figure this out. Like, Vegan seems like a guy who's going to, all right, this is where we were lacking, and he's going to go out and address it. So thanks to everyone for listening all year. This isn't our last episode, but it's one of our last episodes. It's our final game recap, which is kind of a little bit, hasn't hit me yet. We're done talking Bobcat football on this podcast. That's been going for 4 years now. That is a little bit sad, but thanks again for listening. Like I said, you can always find us on Twitter, RRCatcast. You can find us on any of the social medias, RRCatcast. And Foley, let's just get out of here. Go Cats.
Go Cats.
Go Cats.